Hi. So I'm going to tell you today about Pathao. Pathao is a super app. We have, at this point, over 8 million downloads, 1 million daily active users. We operate in 2 different countries, Bangladesh and Nepal. We serve 50,000 plus businesses. We have 200,000 drivers and over 1,000 people work directly at Pathao today. This was not always the case. Today is October 2022. We started in October 2015. So it's been almost about exactly 7 years, right? 7 years ago, all of these numbers I quoted seemed like a dream, right? It was just two friends and 3 drivers, and that's all we had. This journey was not really smooth, right? This had a lot of ups and downs. And I'm going to tell you today about how we came where we came to be. So, first of all, like I think all of you over here, I'm a student of North South, right? So, I did my BBA. When I joined, it was still the Bonani campus. I think in the 3rd semester, I moved into this campus. I did my BBA over here. BBA takes about 4 years. It took me about 5 years because to fakibaji kortam. I had to retake a couple of courses. And like I think many of you over here, and you'll all relate, right after I finished my BBA, my mom's like, hey, a job karo. Right? All your friends are getting jobs in multinationals, these big corporates, this big conglomerate out there. What are you doing with your life? And I'm like, Ammu, to shomoy lagbe. Right? I wanted to do something different, and it was very hard to communicate with your parents, right? That, you want to do something different. Parents expect you to go get a job somewhere, right? And, follow a safe and steady path upwards. So I said, okay, you know what? Give me 2 more years and I'll keep you happy. I'll also do my MBA. So then I enrolled in MBA also in North South. That was, I think, 2015, and that's around the time when we started Pathao. So, and in the MBA classes, is anyone over here an MBA student? No. The MBA classes are very tough because it's at 7 p.m. It starts at 7 and it goes all the way up to 10. Right? And at 10, you can't find any buses to go home. So I grew up in Kamalapur. So coming from Kamalapur to Bonani or to Boshundhara every day, we had to take a bus all the time. It's very tough, right? And back then, the flyovers that you see, they were still being constructed. So the Mokbajar flyover, the Malibag flyover, that was still being constructed. So the roads were very bad, right? Right now, the roads are also bad because of MRT. But that time the road was bad because there was no flyovers. So for me, it used to take 2, sometimes 3 or 4 hours to go back home. And if you just look at Google Maps, Kamalapur isn't really that far, right? It's like 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers, right? But to go 7 or 8 kilometers in Dhaka is very tough because of traffic. So back at Pathao, right? What made a startup actually work, right? So I think it's 3, maybe 4 different things, right? That anyone who wants to start a business or anyone who wants a startup specifically should really focus on. Number 1 is the problem, right? What is the problem that you see or you are facing that you can fix? And what is the problem that is also big enough, right? I have seen a lot of people who, just want to solve sort of their very own niche problem, right? So very own, let's say, Boshundhara problem or very own Gulshan or Borani problem that is not being faced by anyone else. That is not how you actually build a startup. You have to have a big enough problem. For us, now I already talked about it, it was traffic, right? We wanted to solve the traffic problem. It was a problem that I faced personally, but I was also able to back that up with data that this is a problem that everyone else is also facing. Dhaka is a city of 22 million people. How many buses do you think there are in Dhaka? Anyone? There are less than 5,000 buses. for a city of 22 million people. It has some of the worst public infrastructure. How many CNGs? Less than 50,000 CNGs for, again, a city of 22 million people. That was insane. So, of course, I faced that personal problem of coming back and forth and, doing all of this. But also I was able to back that problem up with data that, hey, this is a big enough problem that needs to be solved. So we, at that time, when I was sitting in the buses, I would see that, motorcycles are zooming past. At that time, motorcycle ride sharing was not really a thing, right? Motorcycle was used by, Rastar Gunda Panda, right? There were always, some Bokhate Polapan, যারা হচ্ছে রাস্তার কোনায় বসে থাকতো and just they didn't used to do anything, right? So it already had a very bad branding. We thought that, okay, you know what? At least this is a shortcut. Let's take that shortcut and run with it, right? So we started it wasn't motorcycle ride sharing, we just had 3 motorcycles really, right? And we had a Facebook group. And in that Facebook group, I added all my friends. And I used to call them up or share pictures and say that, hey, you know what? If you need a ride, just give me a call. And I used to share my phone number with everyone. And of course, since motorcycle ride sharing wasn't a thing, people still wouldn't call me. So I used to force my friends that, bhai, ride me. Right? I just call them, I used to give them rides, forcefully ask them to do that. And eventually I did, right? Eventually I was able to convince some of my friends to, take a motorcycle on, their commute to their home or, go to their office with a motorcycle. And the interesting part was that after 1 or 2 times, they used to call me. They're like, okay, you know what? This actually worked. Okay, and I want to ride home. And I was like, bhai, second time to pay korte hobe. First time was free. What I'm basically trying to say over here is that the solution that you want to bring in, a lot of people think that you need tech. A startup means tech, right? You need an app for that. I want to say that you don't, right? I have one of the most downloaded apps in Bangladesh, and I'm going to say that you don't need an app. You don't need tech to actually start a startup, right? You need to focus on the solution. Tech helps you, increase the efficiency of you solving the problem, right? It helps you reach more people, but for most of the time, you don't really need tech to solve it. All you need is an Excel file, right? Excel's boss. So, eventually, we started to grow, and that 3 motorcycles became 10 motorcycles, became 20 motorcycles. My phone number never stops ringing, so I had to give up my number. I have to take a new number, and I gave the number. So at this time, we have a call center, right? And that call center starts to, call more people. Receive the calls, and then we have to dispatch. This went on for, I think, almost about 9 months until we released our app. Right? And that was the inflection point. That was when we actually really started to grow. Until then, we were demonstrating to ourselves and to other people that, hey, this is something that there is a need for. This is something that people actually want to use. This is something that people want to pay for, right? So when you are starting a business, sometimes you think that you need a lot of money to do it, right? You need a lot of money to build an app. You need to hire X many people. You need to do some branding, etc. And I want to say that you really don't, right? To prove out your market, to prove out your product market fit, you don't need any of that. You need to have the ability, however, to break down that problem, right? If my solution to the Dhaka traffic problem was, hey, more people should take motorcycles, then it's more people should take motorcycles, not you need an app to take motorcycles, right? That comes much later. The third thing, which is also extremely important, is to do all of this, you need a really good team, right? And no one does anything alone. You can't, right? You need a really motivated A+ team, and that is also hard when you're starting up, right? Who's gonna work with you? Right? Who's gonna work with you when you are still a student? How do you motivate people to come and work with you? You can't really pay them that much anyway, right? But this team is extremely important, and one of the key ability that you need as founders is to just convince people, not just convince customers, right? Not just convince businesses, but to convince your team members to come and work with you, right? Whether through thick or thin. Some of these people are probably people that you already know, right? Your first few employees are probably your friends who share that vision with you, right? And want to come and work with you. But this team also has to hustle. It has to hustle hard. And I'll give an example of hustling. So at this point, we have 20 bikes, right? We're on the road, and we're still getting call center calls every day. And now we bumped up the 20 to 30, and suddenly, we don't have enough demand for all these drivers. So what did we do? We actually came in front of, Boshundhara, in front of NSU, right? In front of that pichone gate, ta na? 8 number gate, right? Very popular gate. Everyone knows why. Very popular gate. So we went there. It was me, again, a couple of my friends who were working with me, and we said that, hey, you know what? We go to all of these students, people like you, and said that, hi, kothay jaben? Where do you want to go? And they would be like very confused, like, why are you asking me where do you want to go? Kemne jaben bhai? CNG te jabo. How? Okay. Ekta motorcycle niye jan. Keno? It's like very hard to convince people, right? Instead of taking a CNG, which you take every day, take a motorcycle. People have never taken motorcycles at this point. It is কোনো ধরনের kidnapping এর scheme নতুন। এটা কি ধরনের ছিনতাইকারীর scheme ভাই? এটা তো শুনি নাই। And আমাদের convince করতে হতো যে, okay, you know what? We're not trying to kidnap you, right? At least in a CNG, the doors are locked. You can't even jump off. In a motorcycle, it's Dhaka traffic. You can just jump off. Please take a motorcycle with us. And finally, we were able to convince a few people. We didn't convince everyone. We needed to convince a few, right? And we did this in front of NSU, we did this in front of BRAC, we did this in front of IUB. And the first day, it took a lot of convincing. Second day, it took a lot of convincing. Third day, we gave out our number. We didn't have an app. We gave out our number. Third day, people called us. Right? Oh, you know what? Yeah, this actually saved time. This actually saved money. Like, right, second time to free na. It'll pay. And that's how we got that early traction. A lot of people, a lot of founders, or they always have this big idea, right? They have an idea that they think it's going to solve the world's hunger. It's going to solve all the problems. But it's not about just solving a problem. It's about taking that problem, taking the solution, and going to market with it, right? Going to the people, convincing them to use it, right? And use it consistently. So those three things in order are the constituent parts of what makes sort of a successful startup. You have to have a big problem, you have to solve it, and you have to just go to market. All these three things that I mentioned, they didn't take much money to do, right? I think our biggest cost was just hiring those 3 drivers at first, right? We didn't pay ourselves. The fourth thing, and this is not just a strategy thing, this is not a product thing, this is not a go-to-market thing, right? It's sort of how your own mentality, right? How are you actually doing this? Sometimes people ask, hey, you're an entrepreneur, right? Why are you an entrepreneur? And I thought a lot about it, like, why am I an entrepreneur? And the only answer that I could come up with is that I'm obsessed, right? Obsession is a fuel for entrepreneurs, right? So when I'm doing all of this, I would, again, when you're starting out, again, from that university student, it's not a brand, you don't really have a lot of money. আম্মু এসে বলতেছে যে তোমাকে এত কষ্ট করে এনএসইউ পড়ালাম, তুমি কেন ডেলিভারি করো? Right? It's hard to show people what your vision is, right? People don't really trust you. People don't really believe you unless you are actually successful. And there were times when I was not able to pay people salaries. There were times when a very good friend of mine who was working with me had to leave for a better opportunity elsewhere. And it's not a smooth sailing. It's not linear, right? It's a lot of ups and downs. And those ups and downs still happen, right? The only thing that kept me going was because I was obsessed in solving the problem. Right? And in those dark days, that obsession is the one that kept me going. It wasn't like I had ability. It wasn't NSC অনেক শিখাই দিছে আমাকে অনেক কিছু শিখে গেছি, right? Entrepreneurship class করছি and go get it, right? It wasn't that there were like friends and family were very supportive. They were, but they also wanted me to go get a job. My friend was there getting a promotion, getting married, and I'm like, hey, I'm delivery day, right? And it's also it's hard to convince them. So being obsessed about solving a problem, being obsessed about anything really, I would say is good, right? Obsession is a bad name because people get obsessed about bad things, but when you're obsessed about success, when you're obsessed about doing what you want to do, right, that's a superpower. And every time, obsession is an ability, right? Obsession beats ability. Some people have a lot of natural talent, and that natural talent only gets you so far, right? When you're young, you're like, oh, naturally talented musician, naturally talented athlete, and that takes you so far. But unless you're practicing every day, unless you're like honing your craft every day, unless you're learning every day, right, you are never gonna get better, right? And that's where obsession really helps you. So this is important. This is if there's like one message I can leave behind today, is this, right? You have to learn, you have to grow, and it's always better to be obsessed about solving. Thank you.